Hi, you're rejoining me. We're doing Facebook Live and we have a whole holiday bloat schedule planned. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have so many things to be grateful for. Me, for one, I have 3 things super grateful for. I love this weather. Somehow we are graced with this amazing warm weather. Normally it gets really super chilly in October and then even chillier in November with snow and rain, and somehow we have a little reprieve. And we have rain, so here in California we don't have to worry about the fires so much. I think we all did the rain dance and had a lot of great rain and water come our way. So thanks for joining me. Soon we are going to be having like the biggest holiday celebrations coming up. I don't know how many of you are really excited. I get to see tons of family again and friends, old friends, new friends. I hope all of you are reconnecting, getting your oxytocin boosts. You're busting out, those spikes of oxytocin. We'll be talking about that actually later during the series as well, because it is really good for our gut. A lot of people got a lot of distress and anxiety, depression during this past, enhanced time that we live in. And we need a lot of oxytocin, that can be taken away. And then that leads to leaky gut problems, actually. Studies show there's a lot of problems when we don't have trust and connection, physical as well as mental, and all the wonderful things that come along with that. So let me know what you're grateful for. You can go ahead and put it into the comments. And we're going to talk about like feasting this holiday and how to actually hack that so you don't get a lot of bloating, brain fog, or fat gain. And there's a lot of ways to do that. So you can rewatch last week. I go over 3 main tips. How's that going for you guys? Are you getting all prepped up? One of them we're going to review again today because it's so important. So all of you are embarking on tons of fun food, feasting, making great dishes, favorites. I personally love a lot of gluten products, but I'm very careful and I will indulge during the holidays. So I found some of the best hacks. I may look super healthy and no acne, good skin, but like even 10 years ago, I had a lot of health issues. I had chronic fatigue, bloating, brain fog, all of it. Overgrowths on GI map, and my organic acids was in the shits. It's like super, messed up. And there's a lot of ways to hack all this so that we get better health, as well as our labs will reflect it as well. It's really good to test, don't guess. But now we're in the holiday season and soon Black Friday's upon us, and you're not gonna really probably get a lot of mail, delivered properly. So no testing until maybe after Black Friday. And as we embark, on this new feasting, if you haven't gone through our programs, many of you find that food allergies and gluten and dairy can be tolerated again with our programs. So check them out. We have the most comprehensive program with 4 months, and 8 modules, because this is how we really can help the gut. But in the meantime, we have these teeny weeny little hacks, okay? Because seeding, weeding, feeding does take some time. It's not overnight. We develop food allergies, have major gut problems, have major hyperpermeability and leakiness, brain fog, body fat, and fatigue issues. It does show up on testing, and that's why I love this class. We have an oat kit with it and other testing, and also subjective testing, which are surveys, and you can check them out. Learn how to survey your body when you might be under fatigue or distress, and also disability in your gut, like the hyperpermeability, which leads to brain fog, body fat, and fatigue issues. So check that out. So I used to be like super fatigued, a lot of brain fog, body fat. These are the hacks that will really help you. So number 1, you might want to change up your vitamin routine. If you've been taking a certain amount of stacks and supplements, you might want to change it up a little bit and make sure you get the critical ones. Like now we're, for most of the United States and the world, if you're upper, in the northern hemispheres, sunlight is starting to wane. If you're above the 37th latitude, sunlight, even if it hits your naked skin with no sunscreen, no makeup, nothing, you're gonna find that our skin, and especially if you have a lot of melanin, I'm really dark, if you're having that blockage from melanin and you're living above the 37th latitude, you'll find that your skin isn't going to be producing much vitamin D3 for you, active D3. And what you can do in the meantime is hack that. take a liposomal vitamin D3 with a little K2. Not a lot of people are getting K2. Where do we get it? Fermented foods and organ meats. Who eats those? And do you eat enough fermented foods? You know, it's actually best if we get protein sources that are fermented. So, you know, sausage, that's awesome if it's naturally fermented, but natto, you know, fermented beans is the best. Africa has a lot of native fermented bean dishes as well, and so does Asia. But not a lot of people eat these. So in the meantime, you can take a supplement. And so my staff will post Quicksilver, vitamin D3, K2. It's awesome. It's on our dispensary, so check it out. Thank you, Deandra. And in the meantime, you can try to get some sun, but it's a little chilly. So if you go without clothing or sunscreen and show your skin, you'll get great sun, but you may get a little chilly. Now, second is our gut loves movement. What kind of movement? Of course it loves HIIT, but 5 minutes a week of HIIT isn't gonna be enough, high intensity exercise. In the meantime, it's really great to get it moving with hiking, you know, or swimming, biking, walking is incredible, and even jogging. I am into chronic cardio because we need it. We have been atrophying our muscles if you've been sitting a lot. I work and sit. It's not great for our muscles. So go ahead and consider, you know, aerobic exercise. We promote 10,000 steps here at the Gut Institute. That is what's shown to really help health overall. We're all meant to ancestrally to be having that level of aerobic activity. It also gets our gut moving. Studies show just getting our gut moving with aerobic exercise has huge benefits. I can also tell you that our gut is kind of like a little hamster wheel, you know, like it needs movement to get the mucus going and many other things like kind of rolled up and going. And 10,000 steps is the way to do it. If you haven't have a tracker, you know, a Fitbit or something, an API that also goes into looking at, you know, steps, you want to consider like 10,000 steps a day. And if you're really good, you know, a couple times a month, 20,000 steps. So that's about 2 hours of hiking at a moderate pace. And this is super awesome for your gut microbiome. Whatever is good for your mitochondria, your muscles, is also good for the analogous bacteria, because again, mitochondria is bacteria long time ago before they were endocytosed during evolution, if you believe in evolution. Now, the next thing you want to consider is getting plenty of sleep. You know, during this holiday time, you know, you might be squeezing in work, seeing all your friends and family again. It's hard to catch up. Maybe tons of Netflix. I just caught Red Notice. Did you guys watch that? Oh my God, it's so good and so hilarious. I love Gal Gadot and The Rock. And who's the other dude? They're all so funny, awesome. And how do you squeeze all that in? It's difficult. And I have stacks of books I'm catching up on. It's really hard. And online classes, right? You guys are doing online classes or a Master Gut class. It's hard. So have a good routine, you know, have a good sleep routine. Get your room chilled. I actually started opening my windows in the whole house, and the house gets super chilled. And then I have to admit, I have a little EMF. I have a little electric blanket my kids gave me, which is like phenomenal. And so it gets the bed all warm, you know, then I might shut it off, or it shuts off automatically. So get a good sleep hygiene going. Work out during daylight hours. You know, mid-afternoon is awesome. You're like turning on your circadian rhythm, so then your diurnal rhythms are awesome, and then your nighttime nocturnal rhythms will be super set. Now, some of you, because of gut problems, don't make enough serotonin in the gut. We need serotonin because 80% of our melatonin, our main sleep hormone, is made from serotonin. You get that? And you need bacteria in your gut, good, healthy, good bacteria, not parasites, to make serotonin. And then it gets stored in our enteric nervous system in our gut. And that serves you all the time, you know, so you don't have big drops. And it's really important. So a lot of people don't have enough melatonin. So it's really great to consider a supplement. We love Quicksilver again, liposomal 4 milligrams. It's the high potency one. And if you want, you could do 3 pumps. That's a little over 10 milligrams, 12 milligrams, which is really awesome. When we have enough melatonin, studies show that we store it into our bone marrow. People with cancer, you know, post-chemotherapy, radiation, breast cancer also, are shown that their bone marrow and other areas are depleted of melatonin. Is this a risk factor for cancers? There's some beliefs that it might be. We need melatonin for a lot of different things. And it's just another hormone among many hormones that feed and nourish and keep us really healthy and our gut really good too. So it's really funny, you know, melatonin is shown to actually tighten our esophageal sphincter. So those with reflux GERD, silent GERD, reflux, heartburn, you may have a little deficiency in melatonin because of the lack of serotonin and all the, dysbiosis and hyperpermeability going on. So it's good to load up a little bit. Now, conversely, at high doses, there are some studies that seem to show impairment of the gut function in animal studies. Don't know if this applies for humans. I don't know. We're probably some of the few humans on Earth, the biohackers, we may overdo certain things. So it's good to have moderation, You don't need to rely on a supplement necessarily. If you're having good sleep hygiene, working out, getting good serotonin from your gut flora. Now, the next is to load up on your probiotics. How many have awesome probiotics? Sadly, even my staff and some of us are great fans. We're out of stock temporarily. It's a bad, first world problem. But check out the alternatives. We love Protrin. They're also the makers. They're Natrin also. It's our practitioner brand. Check them out. They're super awesome. One that I really, really love for holidays is Metagenic's Ultraflora Control. Control helps body fat regulation. In, I think, at least 2 or 3 human trials, it's associated with body fat reduction. Weight may be necessary to not change, but when they do composition studies, DEXA, fat scans, right, they see a reduction in body fat. Control is really amazing. It actually is shown to help with gut flora, right, and permeability. All of it comes down to hyperpermeability. And it's sometimes not detectable on the testing we currently have. It'd be more ideal to have more sophisticated testing to look at permeability. The way I look at permeability is pretty subjective. It's what people tell me. Do they have brain fog, body fat, or fatigue issues? What are their autoantibodies and signs and symptoms of, low core body temps, Hashimoto's, low thyroid, low adrenals, low energy, and low anabolic hormones? All of them will reflect a change because the body is stressed because of, what's going on in the gut. And then as a result, cortisol gets shunted. It's called the cortisol shunt. It's the steroid steal is what I call it. When we're stressed for whatever reason, whether it's mental, psychic, right, spiritual, physical, those doing endurance exercises and massive endurance stuff, Ironman, Spartan racers, those are all awesome. Marathons, ultra marathons, but there's a drain that can happen through training and MMA fighting camps, right? And if we don't replenish and have plenty of rest to do that and good adrenal support, everything, all the anabolic hormone studies show they start going down. And then leaky gut happens almost instantly. So check out your probiotics. Those will help. You'll immediately feel more energy. It'll seal and heal the gut, and that will reduce that shunting, the cortisol steal happening. And studies show when we don't have that stress, like gram-negative endotoxin stress, guess what? Testosterone and other hormones, they normalize back up. For women, fertility, PMS, they all go away. They improve. Infertility improves. So how do we help our adrenals? All right, so I have a stack. I love this stack. All our clients get it. And we hear amazing benefits, like pant-busting boners, right? Morning wood daily instead of once a month. And then body fat reduction and better brain fog or no brain fog at all. So my stack is Dragon Mojo. Check it out. It's also on Amazon now and it's on our store. And Nano Mojo. Nano Mojo is over 20 different botanicals starting with goji berry and gynostemma. These are like the hardiest and the strongest, most robust anti-inflammatories in Asian medicine, Korean, Japanese, Chinese medicine. They're phenomenal. Gynostemma is actually used in most of the cancer formulas for TCM. It's so anti-inflammatory, so longevity promoting. It's pretty incredible. So that's made by Quicksilver and Sunhorse. And then Dragon is made by us. Dragon is amazing. How many of you might be struggling with poor body fat composition or struggle with low testosterone or low progesterone? This is why Dragon is just phenomenal. The only contraindication is if you're a woman and your estrogens are in the dump and you're like either semi-perimenopausal or totally menopausal and you have the deficiency of estrogen is like really, really low. On the other hand, you can fix that. You can add a little Maca. So Maca's on our dispensary. My staff will send you a link if you want on the Maca. There are different brands of Maca, and so check it out. you can boost your estrogen if it's that low. On the other hand, everyone else should be able to tolerate it pretty well. And what I love about it is because in this day and age, because of stress, we have estrogen dominance. Sometimes we can pick it up because Dutch testing or hormone blood testing will pick it up. On the other hand, if someone has a lot of plastics, heavy metals, chemicals, we can't pick that up unless you're doing a tox screening. And you can check it out. We have tox screenings for you. These are all estrogenic. And what I love about Dragon is we have 2 estrogen blockers. They're very gentle, very low dose, and they will help to block these cancerous effects from chemicals, heavy metals, which are estrogenic, phthalates, plastics, which are estrogenic and cancerous, and then many other chemicals that are estrogenic. And what I love is there's tribulus, right? Chrysin from passion flower, and several other really wonderful botanicals that synergistically work together to help boost our stress resilience. It's so amazing. And on testing, sometimes we'll see, these anabolic hormones double or triple, depending on how low they start, or we'll at least see the benefits in terms of subjective. People report more body fat reduction, composition changes, more energy, endurance. They're able to handle stress. So holidays are sometimes stressful. How many of you plan to see some relatives that you don't really want to see? That's stressful. How many of you have a big schedule? You have holiday shopping coming up, a lot of meals to prepare, a lot of hosting to take care of, and playing bartender to a lot of family and friends. A lot of fun things coming up. And that can be kind of it'll add to all the things you're currently doing. So protect your adrenals. Our adrenals are our foundation of longevity. They're also the foundation for our gut health as well. We help boost and bolster and create a good foundation for all our clients for adrenals, because that is the end game, and they feed each other back and forth. So now I'll take a couple questions. Thank you so much for joining today. It's really fun to share about these little tips, how to hack so you can feast without worrying about any of the problems that are going to happen. And if you do all this, some of you will even be able to eat gluten again without so much of a problem, instead of having pain and discomfort and being stuck in bed with just a few bites or contamination. So hopefully you'll gain this buffering with all these hacks. The last thing, I was going to mention also, we have a really great, on our dispensary, a butyrate product, because some of you might be starting probiotics, and while you're waiting for them to kick in, you can also take something called tributyrin. We love the Designs for Health product. It's on our dispensary. It simulates, it's a postbiotic. It's what good bacteria, they're the butyrate producing Clostridioides, what they make when they're where they're supposed to be and they're fed what they're supposed to be fed, and they're happy and healthy. So I love tributyrin. For myself, I'll up level the dosing and take 5 or even 8 a day if I'm going to be eating something I normally don't eat, like gluten or dairy or a whole bunch of sugar or something. So you can prophylactically do that. Consider that with your medical team, or just after holidays, you can consider taking it. If you already know you're going to have some gut problems, like I do already know in a lot of instances, if I'm not sleeping enough, not working out enough, if there's a lot of stress going on, I'll just prophylactically take it, and I have very minimal bloating or any problems. So check that out and let me know next week how things work out for you. And my staff will put a link and give you information how you can consider tributyrin if you want to add it to your arsenal of tools. So I think I'm going to be able to see the questions. If you guys have questions, go ahead and post them here. Okay, Garrett Cullen, thank you so much for your question. Can vitamin D help overall gut and fatigue issues? So very good question, Garrett. Vitamin D cannot be just taken all by itself all the time. If you have a really good diet, organic vegetables, produce, fruit, you're gonna get plenty of electrolytes, minerals, and most importantly, magnesium. Some people who have severe gut issues, they already are low on magnesium. And so if you're gonna consider vitamin D or K2, you want to consider good mineral support while you're adding it. Otherwise, you will be causing some of your magnesium to move into the bones and muscles, and then you're going to create this, what's known as a functional deficiency. And if you have plenty of mag or supplementing, what most people tell us is that their gut issues and fatigue improve dramatically just the first week or two. It is a really phenomenal vitamin, and talk to your doctor and your medical team about the dosage. Generally 2,000 units a day is really awesome for most people. There are certain circumstances where we don't do vitamin D, like if you've had mold exposure, you want to or have multiple systemic subclinical low-grade infections, cryptococcus or mold or other really severe ones. You want to check something known as your vitamin D 125 dihydroxy D2. So 125 dihydroxy D2. And the reason is because some of these infections will cause an elevation of that, and you don't want to add vitamin D or sunlight even on top of that. These tend to be our vampires. Anyway, that kind of goes into a deep hole, but in general, yes, vitamin D for the great majority of people feel phenomenal on it. You want to consider taking it in the morning, unless you have some other reason to take it in the night, because it does simulate sunlight. So I hope that helps you. What other questions do you guys have? Nina, thank you so much for joining today. Hey, Dory. Hi, Sarah. Garlic. Mark, thank you so much for your question. Mark Doug. What are your thoughts for good gut health cleanse after steroids, antibiotics? So after a cleanse, yes, I'm into all probiotics. I'm pretty agnostic. All probiotics are great. There is a couple species I don't really do a lot of with clients until we've gone through a couple of our programs, like the Master Gut class. My staff can post on that if you're interested. And cleanses can, tend to really mess up the gut, especially the all fruit cleanses or the fasting cleanses, or even just go lightly and colon, electrolyte cleanses for doing a colonoscopy. Studies show sometimes it's like an antibiotic effect. The microbiome doesn't return to where it started off with originally. And that's a little, if you've done a lot of work, that's a little scary and bad. And it's just because, all of us have kind of precarious guts. For some people, their guts are fragile, the microbiome is fragile, and it doesn't take a lot to kind of push it over. And that's the same with steroids and NSAIDs, right? And H2 blockers, Zantac, that kind of medication, or the purple pill, Prilosec and Protonics, and antibiotics. All of them, including birth control too, they have effects of, and metformin, a lot of biohackers seem to love metformin, but studies show that these have antibiotic effects and they kill off good gut flora. And then it leaves sort of the more pathogenic weeds to take over, and these can cause a lot of problems. So probiotics are always good, and I'm going back to there's a couple species that can be kind of dangerous or not good for someone necessarily because of what we see in clinical studies. One is Saccharomyces. We do testing, so we're looking at a marker known as ASCA, Anti-Saccharomyces Antibodies. We all have a lot of Saccharomyces in the gut. It's a common yeast. And once our gut becomes damaged, leaky, and under some inflammation, we make antibodies to Saccharomyces, just as we make antibodies to other things that look like, which are against enteric flora, but also look like our body tissues, like Hashimoto's. There's anti-TPO and antibodies against thyroid globulin, as well as thyroid receptor. Well, guess what? These look like gluten, and they also look like candida, and they look like dairy and casein. There's a cross reactivity happens, and it's known as molecular mimicry. Anyway, we check ASCA on a lot of our clients, and they're high. And so you don't want to be using a probiotic known as Saccharomyces boulardii, S. boulardii. If you're reasonably healthy, it's not a big deal. But, if you're kind of dealing with either body fog, brain fog, fatigue, or like something more severe, chronic condition, inflammatory disease, cancer, high blood pressure, calcifications, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, any of those, you might consider avoiding the Saccharomyces species family, the whole family of probiotics. Then same with strep. A lot of our clients, we can check strep antibodies if they tend to have anxiety or any degree of like restlessness and autoimmunity and inflammatory disorder. They will have antibodies to strep. We don't bother even checking anymore. And so we avoid the whole class of Streptococcus probiotics. There's a lot out there now. VSL number 3 is one of the worst, actually. It's the highest dose in there. It's like the number 1 species in there because it's so cheap. It's a food grade probiotic and it's not good for people. People often when they start it, they don't feel too good. They don't realize, exactly why. Initially, they may feel a little bit good because there are good species in these formulas, but the strep eventually can trigger enough of an antibody response that it starts to have health problems overall because it's triggering. So it's just like gluten, like we wouldn't give someone gluten if they had antibodies to gluten. Most of our clients have some sort of antibodies to gluten, even after being gluten-free for 10 years. Their body hasn't calmed down to settle those antibodies. So your question's very good, and we have kind of complex answers for it all. And the reason is because, we can achieve health if we take all these things into consideration, and it won't slow down progress. Hey, Becky, so good to see you. So the dosage for Maca is kind of standard. 200 to 500 is really good. For some of our perimenopausal, menopausal, we kind of go a little higher, but we also monitor. Maca, as you know, can also raise estrogens. So if they're not on Dragon Mojo with DIM and Chrysin, we want to consider some kind of, estrogen protection, like calcium D-glucarate. DIM is really amazing. Some people don't tolerate DIM, but those are the minimum you want to block a little bit. But Maca's awesome. 5 grams is a lot. If you're talking about raw Maca, that's not too bad. That's like a teaspoon. I don't do too much raw Maca because of the lectins in there, but it can be good and healthy for some people who don't have too many gut issues. That's a great question. Thank you. Sharon Dute, thank you for your question. Can berberine cause low blood glucose, low blood sugars, and weight loss while killing bacterial overgrowth? Very good question. So there are 2 types of studies with berberine if you dig into it. One is it can be really helpful, especially for those with metabolic syndrome and overweight, because it can lower blood sugars and it can help with fat loss if it's lowering pathogenic bacterial overgrowth. It's also mildly antiviral, antifungal too. The flip side, okay, is in healthy people, right? Berberine will cause reactive low blood sugar, roller coaster low blood sugars, hypoglycemia to the point people can't think. Like I get that. And it can kill off good bacteria to the point where people start getting loose stools, diarrhea, and dysbiosis. So depends on where you are in your microbiome, depends on what your metabolism starts off at, okay? I mean, I've even talked to dudes, they're on metformin for I don't know what the fuck reason, or they're on berberine for no reason, and they get cranky. They're trying to do CrossFit on berberine or metformin, and I'm like, are you fucking nuts? Like, you should be pretty healthy. You can do all these things, and you don't need that, extra kick in a way. Metformin is the stronger synthetic version of berberine. Metformin started off actually as a botanical, the problem is that the dose can be so high, and studies show it can block muscle, if hypertrophy after working out, if it's on board. And that's because you're not feeding the muscles because of the way the drug works. The same can happen with berberine as well. If it's so strong for someone, for where they are in their basal metabolism, you won't get, after eating, and whether it's carb or protein, you won't get the responses where you would normally have to have muscle hypertrophy. And we've seen that with, keto studies in women, and as well as I see it in a lot of different cases. So berberine is not good for everybody across the board. We use it really selectively for gut protocols because it is nice. It can target certain pathogens, even parasites, and then particularly SIBO and SIFO, small intestinal fungal overgrowth. But it's a double-edged sword like many things. So hope that helps you share it. I know it's a long answer to what you would have thought would be a simple question. But I really appreciate your question. It's really awesome. So I'll take one more, and then please join us again next Tuesday at 2 o'clock if you have further questions. And when we can, we'll get to some of your questions and post some answers during the week. Christina Danofsky, thank you so much for your question. I just finished a 2-week elemental diet for SIBO and have now started taking SF722 caprylic for candida. Any recommendations for a good probiotic? Yes, we make them, but we're out of stock right now. So you can pre-order. My staff will let you know how to do that. And in the meantime, we have some really fantastic, awesome alternatives. Protrin is great. It has some of the potency that I love, and also it has different strains than our Bifidum maximus and the Microbiome Mojo. So you'll really, really love it. My staff and I did not post on Equilibrium, but you really want to consider some Equilibrium too. Sometimes the elemental diet, if you follow Jessica Flanagan, she's amazing. She's been a speaker on our stage for the microbiome medicine conferences, really dear friend of mine. She has an amazing platform, and it's called the Loving Diet Platform. And she and I aren't the biggest fans of elemental diet for SIBO, just to be honest with you. She's pretty vocal about that. So go read her stuff, go check out her platform on Facebook as well as Instagram. The problem with elemental diets or anti-FODMAP diets is that they're going to limit your microbiome, which is good, but then you won't resurrect the things that you lose. Once they're gone, they can almost go extinct. And then you add on their, caprylic acid and SF722, two oils, which are awesome, very antifungal, very nice, but they have also, potential, you may be wiping out other good things. So just be careful of that. So you want really, really good probiotics. You want to consider high potency if you can tolerate it, right? Something like Equilibrium gives you the diversity. So Equilibrium is only 1 billion, very low potency in fact, but it's got 115 strains in it. And it's one of the few probiotics on the market that has butyrate producing Clostridioides. So, I talked about the Tributyrin product from DFH, Designs for Health. It's a postbiotic. We want to get butyrate in the gut if we're having, issues or problems or hyperpermeability. It's even better if you get bacteria that make butyrate, and Equilibrium is one of the few probiotics that has it, so consider that. It's really awesome. So there's a whole range of things, and also consider metagenics control that I talked about earlier. Those are all great probiotic support while you're doing any kind of intervention to your gut like what you're doing. So good luck to you, Christina. Let us know what works for you. Can't wait to hear more. So grateful for your gut journey and sharing with us. So thank you again. Have an amazing holiday this week. Bless all of your guts and your feasting that's to come, and may you have very minimal gut issues as a result. Love you all. See you next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. May your health be as marvelous as your microbiome. Bye-bye.